Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're doing a summer replay of an episode we recorded a few years ago on decluttering. This is an ongoing issue, and we're excited to revisit how to pare down effectively and painlessly. Let's get started. Listeners, today we are talking about decluttering, and not just normal decluttering. We are talking about decluttering at the speed of life. That's life, not light. So anyways, we're talking about Dana White's book, Decluttering at the Speed of Life, Winning Your Never-Ending Battle with Stuff. And she's also written How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind, which is also a great title. All right, Dana calls herself a decluttering expert because she has decluttered. She's dealt with her stuff, her sentimental attachments, and her need to be prepared for any and every scenario that could possibly happen between now and the day her great-great-grandchildren die. She decided to view her home as a place to live instead of a place to store all her great ideas and their attached stuff. And Julie, you've been just singing the praises of this book. I know you love it so much. What about it appeals to you?
Well, it really is a book that's just hard to put down, except you want to put it down so you can get started decluttering. I feel like it's something you should be listening to as you work, But
Okay.
I just like it because it's very bare bones. She says, I'm not going to be able to solve any of your personal problems or your financial situations or
Oh,
your
man.
emotional attachments. She said, this is just about getting rid of stuff. That's all it is. And that's enough. And she's very, very funny. So
Oh,
she's
Yes.
very real. And
Okay.
she doesn't judge you. She celebrates any and every bit of progress.
Oh, awesome.
it sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. Julie, you told us that it does not contain any complicated systems or detailed charts, which is kind of like where I would go off into a rabbit hole and just give up. So I'm
Yeah.
glad it's not complicated.
Right. It doesn't sound very self-helpish either. So
No. And she doesn't even have photos. She said there'll be no
Okay.
photos in this book. There's nothing to aspire to, like this is what your
Mhm.
room should look like. It's just not about that. It's just about a whole new mindset. So,
Oh. Well, speaking of her mindset, what is her decluttering mindset, Julie?
well, just to kind of sum it up, she says decluttering is simply stuff you don't need leaving your house.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's not stuff shifting. And most importantly, it's not organizing. She said that is a whole nother topic. And I think a lot of times we get those confused. Like, oh, I've got all this stuff flowing out of my closet. So I'll go buy neat boxes and new shelving and racks. And it's not about that. Because, well, we'll talk about why it's not that, but that is not what the book is about. Clutter, by her definition, is anything you can't keep under control.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Do y'all have any spaces like that?
Well, I think we've all talked about like our kitchen counters.
Yeah.
They're like
Mm.
magnets for clutter.
My closet sometimes. I have a couple drawers in my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My pantry is mine right now. And crafts and books.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically it's just too much stuff in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about that we all have a clutter threshold. And she said, when you live above it, life is hard and out of control. But when you live below it, your home stays more naturally under control. So I was just wondering, and I know you do, Marie, you've mentioned this, but do you know your clutter threshold?
My clutter threshold is just if something is coming out of the designated container that I had for it. That's too cluttered. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I don't have something where I'm like, oh, well, if there's 5 things on the table, that's too many. 3, I'm okay.
You just recognize it. You just know it.
Yeah. How about you, Mindy?
Right. I like to see tabletops and I like to see more space open than taken up with stuff. And thankfully, we're on the same page with this because if one of us or the children leave something on a tabletop for like too long, it's going to get moved. And at least we know where things get moved. The problem lies in that when you move it and the person doesn't know where that went, but if it has a designated space that it didn't get put back into, it's going. Like we can't handle it for very long.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that's like hourly, that could be daily, or it could be weekly, or maybe
Yeah.
monthly, depending on how in the way it is.
Well, and that's true because sometimes if you're going through a stressful period in life, your clutter threshold might be lower than if
Yes.
things are going well and you're like, okay, I let it pile up a little bit more. And then
Mhm.
you'll reach, I mean, all of us have experienced where you reach the clutter threshold. And I always laugh at when this happens with kids because I was walking with a mom one time and she said, "Oh, I just feel so bad. Like I totally messed up with my kids," but we can totally all relate. She was so tired of the basement playroom. And like as a mom, you let that stuff go. Like we're not down there
Mhm.
organized every minute. But she
Right.
finally reached her breaking point and she said she took a broom and was sweeping Barbies out the door. Like, we
Yeah.
are getting rid of this stuff. And haven't we all reached that clutter threshold before?
Mom's losing it.
Mom's losing it, yes. Like, better
Yeah.
deal with it before it gets to that point.
Listen, have you seen that meme? I totally have to mention this because it's like the Christian mom when she loses it. It's like, love is patient, love is kind. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here. My
Yeah.
kids have all sent that to me at different times. I'm like, yep, trying to teach the Christian character and I'm losing it.
I somehow always think that if I keep putting those things away, Mindy, like you do, like if there's always this thing on the counter and I keep putting it away and they get upset that I put it away, that they'll
Mhm.
eventually not
Yeah.
want me to see it, and they'll put it away. But that hasn't
Think
happened
that.
yet.
That's just too logical, Julie. Way too logical.
I would think they'd want to hey, keep this for mom,
Oh, maybe I
Right.
should put it back. Eh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes we declutter too much. So, Julie, have you ever experienced regret? I tried really hard to think if I have regretted. I'm sure I have. When I've regretted it? I've regretted it when I've gotten rid of someone of someone else in my family,
Yeah.
and they asked
Mhm.
me for it later.
Mhm.
That's when I
Mhm.
regret it.
Well, I thought of it kind of just as just a real simple example. So regret is maybe too strong a word, but I used to own a spring form pan.
Mm.
And in one of my decluttering phases of my kitchen, I thought, I've never once made a cheesecake, so I'm just going to get rid of this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you all know, about a few months ago, I discovered this great flourless chocolate cake, and it required a spring form pan. So I had to call Marie and borrow her mother's. So yes, I did regret that, but I've made that cake twice since then. So you know what? I spent $7 and bought my own.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
now I'm not just storing something with potential usefulness. I am
Mhm.
using
Right.
it now.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
I think that's a big thing with her. If you're using it now, you're not going to get rid of it, but don't just hold on to things for potential usefulness.
Right.
Just living with a home that's consistently under control is just better than living with regret over your clutter. Even though you might get rid of something you love that you need later, but she goes, we all survive.
Mhm.
She doesn't have
Okay.
a lot of sympathy for you. She's like, you know what? You'll survive.
Mhm.
I like that. I'm thinking that her level of mercy is quite low, and I'm kind of liking it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you have a problem with clutter that you've blamed on your space not being big enough, or you've wished for a bigger? I know I have a fascination with small spaces and how people organize them and how
Mhm.
much you can do in a small space and how can you make it work harder. So
Mhm.
I don't know if I ever really wish for bigger. I just wish for more efficiency.
Yes. Oh, Marie, yes. Our social experiment of moving a family of 5 from a 7,500 square foot house into a 1,500 square foot townhome up in
Mm,
Pennsylvania. I don't know if you guys remember any of
I
those
do.
conversations, but I was so excited. I had to leave my home in Tennessee staged. So we actually rented furniture so that the townhome was furnished for us.
Mm,
So we
mhm.
only took like our bedding and I wanted my own pots and pans and silverware and stuff like that. But all the furniture, I mean, I didn't have to think about a thing, but I got to leave all my stuff behind in Tennessee. And it was so much fun to live in a small space. That excitement lasted about 6 to 9 months, though, before I was ready for my home again and my own stuff. But I was so excited to even figure out in the kitchen. I didn't have a pantry in this townhome. And so I ended up getting, something easy from Target, like an open shelf butler's rack that fit on one little wall. And that is the only place we could have pantry items. And if it didn't fit, I wasn't buying it. And so when it ran out, then I knew it was so, so simple, in the bathrooms, everything, you could only have just enough. And I thought that was a really fun little experiment in life.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
And you probably didn't even have a garage for like overflow.
No. Now when we had to go back to the 7,500 square foot house and move all that stuff, Bryce and I were kicking ourselves. We got rid of so much stuff because after living without it for a year is what we ended up living without it. And then when you have to pay to move it cross country, and then we knew it had to go in storage, that's when you're like, there's no reason we should be carrying all of these Dr. Seuss books with us, even though we have all these wonderful, there were just a lot of things that ended up going out the door.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I thought about spaces that I wished were bigger, and we actually did make bigger. And when we first moved into this house, we had a pantry with 2 little bifold doors. It was about 18 inches deep, 36 inches wide. And that's when I had, all 3 kids young here, and that worked, But then when we remodeled, we turned our laundry room downstairs into a walk-in pantry. Well, now my pantry is the thing that's usually most out of control because it got bigger. And so guess what? I filled it.
Oh, right.
And so that is not always the best solution. And she'll talk about that. And the same way with our closets, we each had separate closets that were pretty small for the size house we have. House was built in the 80s, so closets weren't that big. And when we remodeled our bathroom a few years ago, we got rid of those closets and made one larger closet. And then those are the areas that tend to get out of control.
Wow.
How interesting.
Like the closet is full and it's too full. So so getting a larger whatever is not the solution. And she talks about that.
Hey.
I love that idea because Steve and I share a closet. I think we definitely always have. And this is the biggest closet that we've ever had, but we've also shared tinier closets. And you just have the space that you have, and that's all you can do with it.
Well, you have to be married to someone who understands that concept.
Oh.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So I won't go into that. But the author did talk about once when she was young, she lived in another country. And, their refrigerators aren't very big. And they were just a little bit bigger than a college dorm refrigerator,
Wow.
And she said, but, my roommate and I, we cooked every night at home. We had meals. We had a little freezer section and it worked. Like you learn to just make it work. Instead of complaining and wishing that you had something different, just learn to make the space you have work. So that kind of leads into the next thing about the container concept. And Marie, I know that you have mentioned this when we talked about decluttering before, that you consider a drawer or a shelf a container, and then once that gets full, it's time to get rid of some things.
Right.
So I think that's one of her big things.
Yeah. For listeners, like a real life example is one of my husband's drawer is full of workout clothes. He never touches the workout clothes that are on the bottom. So when I can no longer comfortably put laundry in there, I make him go through it and we get rid of stuff. But until that time, I don't really care what it looks like as long as I can put stuff in there. But that's how I pretty much am with all my stuff. You wouldn't open up my pantry and say, woo, is she ever organized? Or, my closet and say, wow, look at all those things are hanging the exact same way. And she has a bin for each thing and they're labeled. No, but the things fit. And if they ever start not fitting, then we're getting rid of stuff.
Yes. have the same mentality. I don't make my boys go through their clothes, the things that they've outgrown, until I'm noticing that they're not putting clothes away anymore because their drawers are all stuffed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, she kind of takes that concept and expands it to your whole house. Like, think of your whole house as a container.
Okay.
Each room is a container. Each surface is a container. Each drawer, each cabinet, they're all containers. And the purpose of a container, and I thought this was really wise, is to contain. And if you look it up in the dictionary, some of the definitions are to limit the expansion of something or to succeed in preventing the spread of. And that definition really helps to kind of solidify this concept in my mind, like this is its container. This is the limit. So it's setting limits on your stuff. Kind of how this would work is you would fill the container, and a container doesn't have to be like what you think it is, like a box like it can be a surface. It can be a space. It can be a bag, whatever, or even a hook. Fill that with your favorites first. Favorites get first dibs in the space. And then so now you know the things you want to keep, and then you donate the rest. And she goes, there's no angst, no emotions. You're just picking your favorites and putting them in the container. So the question isn't if, something had worth, but rather if it just fits into the container. And that's what I like. It's not a lot of emotional, the Marie Kondo book was fun to read for me, but I'm not going to touch all my stuff and
see if this sock brings you joy.
See if it brings me joy. Like that would take forever. I would never get anything done. So, and then she said, you might have things you like, but they aren't your favorites. Well, they can stay if there's room. So that's how it works. And that just keeps you from lamenting, if I just had a bigger whatever, I just don't have enough room. No, you don't. You just need to contain what you have.
Right. I like how you also said that she talks about the 1 in, 1 out rule. I do this. Well, I try to do this. I'm not perfect at it, but it's funny because I keep using my husband as an example, but I don't know why, but it just something comes to my mind. He did not like any of his joggers or sweatpants this winter. He thought they were ugly and, wanted to replace them, but never would actually go out and shop himself. So I went and bought him 3 pairs, and he tried them on and he liked them. Well, then this weekend I was going through and putting things away, and I said, okay, I'm going to take out all the old yucky ones. And I brought them to him and I said, I want to get rid of these because I just bought you 3 new pairs, so I should be able to get rid of these other ones, right? Because I'm trying not to just throw them out. I'm trying to be respectful here. And he said, okay, fine. I don't like them. But that was yes, I bought new ones and now I'm actually getting rid of the old. Was there room to store both? Probably, but why would I want to?
Right.
Well, and there can be technically room, but if you're always having to I do this with my skillet drawer. I have this skillet in there that weighs about, 100 pounds, and it's losing its non-stick surface, so I never want to use it. But I have to lift it to get to my cast iron skillet every time I go in there. Why am I doing that? Just get rid of it. If you're having to go through all these clothes that don't fit to get to the ones you wear, that's, you need to get rid of them. If you're having to dig through all these bowls you never use to get to the ones you do use, it's time to get rid of them. And I liked how she put this. She said, your favorite dishes are the ones in your dishwasher because those are the ones you're using. Look up in the cabinets, the one that never make it to the dishwasher. Why are you still holding on to this? So I got rid of some pasta bowls this week. I thought these were nice Pottery Barn, beautiful white bowls, but I just have to move them every time I get my crock pot out of the cabinet.
Right.
So they technically fit, but they were annoying to maneuver around.
Mindy, do you have anything like that? Because I'm feeling like you just moved. So what's your clutter downfall?
My downfall?
Your sweaters.
Well, it is funny because you know how everyone says when I lose weight, I'm going to keep those jeans, or I'm going to keep that skirt, or I'm going to keep that whatever it is until I lose weight. Right. So you hear do not do that. Don't save clothes until you reach a different size because first of all, if you lose weight, you want to go shopping. So
Yeah.
that's literally like one of the first things you want to do is
Or
like
it won't be in style.
Yeah, it may not be in style. I mean, it could have taken you a while to lose weight. And so anyways, when we first moved in, I started making piles in my closet of things that I needed to go through. Well, I inevitably always gain 10 to 15 pounds when I move. It's like the emotional stress of it. And so I had put a bunch of stuff in piles, and I'm sad to say it sat there for a little too long. Well, I did finally, lose the 10 to 15 pounds. And so I found myself digging back through the pile, pulling things out and putting it back in, hanging in my closet to wear. And it's like things that are a little more like classic pieces that they have not gone out of style. But had I gone ahead and gotten rid of them, I mean, I would have regretted that. So I know that's a silly story, but I was so excited to be able to pull out a particular long denim skirt that I love and wear it. So
Well, you identified the problem. You knew that you probably would lose it. You know what I'm saying? Like you knew a pattern. You knew it wasn't like you said, well, someday I'm going to lose weight, so I'm going to put these back here. And then 5 or 10 years later, you're like, oh, okay, fine. Goodwill.
right. Yeah, if it's been a year and you're still saying, when I do this, just get rid of it.
Yeah, she talks about that saving things for potential usefulness. That's not living in the now. Like that's not living in the present in your house, in your space.
Right.
All right. Well, here's an interesting question to me because I would love to just poll like Americans on this. I'd just love to know the why. Like, do you value space over stuff or even money? So like, what do you value more? Space or your stuff?
I'm going to say space because Bryce and I both value having clean surfaces, clean, and floor space and closet space. And so if, we see so much clutter or things, like are packed in there so tight, and it stresses us both out. And so we very much would rather get rid of things and have breathing room. Like we both feel like we can breathe easier in our house. So we'd rather have bare walls almost sometimes.
Yeah. Most of my clutter is not what's visible. Like it's not that I'm decluttering my walls or my rooms. My problem areas are more behind closed doors. And except for my pantry. But so I am wanting to value space more because I want that to open that closet and see some light, some space, not just, stuff falling out. And, when she said, do you value space over money? What she was addressing there is a lot of people will say, instead of donating, they want to sell their stuff, like sell it on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. And she said, I'm okay with that as long as you really will do it. After we go over her 2 decluttering questions that you should ask about everything in your house, one of her things is, like to deal with it right then. And when you sell things, there's a delay. You have to create a pile or a room or an area to store it all and ship it and pack it and wait on the responses. And so she said, you won't declutter as quickly. It can really slow you down. And basically you're getting rid of things one at a time that way, whereas you could just donate it all at once. So I just did some decluttering this week and took 4 huge tubs to Goodwill. And there were some things in there I could have sold, but I think my time and the immediate space it created, it was more valuable than the money that I could have earned from selling those things.
Right.
I've questioned that a lot, and I've come to that same conclusion so many times as well. Is like I feel so good dropping it off at Goodwill. There's this freedom to be rid of stuff. Like stuff really can be a burden.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Right. I'm laughing because I definitely value space over stuff or even maybe selling it for the money. And we recently cleaned out our garage because I wanted to get rid of a big piece of furniture in my dining room and I wanted to move it to my garage. And it was a Friday night and Steve's kind of like, is this really how you want to spend your Friday night? And I'm just getting more excited by the minute. Yes. And like,
Mhm.
I'm just, every item we toss, I'm like getting a bigger high and a bigger high. And he's like, but we have room. We could, no, I want to see that shelf empty. I want to see where I could put something on the shelf if I wanted to put something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I just definitely, so I definitely think like there are different personalities that enjoy the space over the stuff. And then there are other people that are like, I like my stuff. I don't mind if it's a little bit cluttered.
Right.
Neither one is wrong. I say that neither one is wrong. It's wrong if I have to live with them, but it's not wrong if it's your own house.
That's right. I know. Well, it's funny because you mentioned like the money thing. And so I know when Bryce and I realize we have a lot of things that we want to get rid of, Bryce immediately thinks like, oh, we should have a garage sale.
Oh.
That is the bane of my existence to
Think of
have
how
a
much
gar-
time is taken up with that.
I can't. I love to go garage selling.
Right.
Yeah.
I
right.
cannot stand being stuck in my
Mhm.
driveway for hours and all the prep work and the pricing and
Mhm.
all the million decisions you have to make. And I'm just like, can you load it up in the back of my minivan? I'll take care of it. Like
Yes.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's
And
something so relieving and refreshing about just knowing it's all gone at once.
Oh, I just stuff again. It can be such a burden.
Well, where do you guys usually donate? Because my default is Goodwill, but sometimes ARS, which I don't remember what it was. It was some kind
they
of
would call you.
resources or something. They would call you and they'd say, "We're going to be in your
Mhm.
neighborhood."
I
So I
forgot
would
about
put
them.
things at the end of the driveway, but sometimes it's
Mhm.
kind of hard to think of other places to give things to other than the Goodwill.
Yeah, she talked about this in the book that a lot of people ask her, where do you find things to donate? And I thought that was kind of an
Right.
odd question because Goodwill is always just my go-to.
Mhm.
But I used to use the ARS, but they don't call me anymore. I don't know if that was.
I think they actually went out of business, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Mm. I have found in different places that we've lived, I always ask about this because, and in particular, when we live in a more impoverished area,
Mm-hmm.
that I do want to keep, like, if I'm getting rid of things, that I really want them to stay in my community, because that I do think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that I try not to donate to Goodwill because I know it can go like
Other
it's a
communities.
it's a
Mhm.
business. And so I
Mhm.
really try to find like a nonprofit charity that has open hours for people to come and get free things. You know, like
Oh,
when I
okay.
know it's going out the door on,
Mhm.
Tuesday, Thursday mornings from this time to this time, it's open for people that are in need or foster families that are looking for,
Mhm.
children's things or just this is going to go to a women's shelter or it's things like that I do get passionate about. And so in every area there's typically a place, some sort of ministry, it could be run by a church or just a nonprofit that will service your particular community. And so those are great to find. If I can't find those, then Goodwill it is because they have drive up and you can drop it off from your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And Goodwill is a business, but they are helping
Yes.
people
Yes.
with disabilities get jobs too. So,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this place, if you're in a bigger city, when we lived outside of Philadelphia, it was called Green Drop.
Mm.
And we had and they do donate to different charities. And so they actually come to your house to pick up those items. You can
nice.
schedule a pickup and you can tell them like what you have and they tell you what they take, what they don't take. So there's a website. But anyways, I really enjoyed using Green Drop as well when I had a lot of stuff like,
Mhm.
that I want to get rid of. So
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
convenient.
Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What are those two questions that we're going to ask ourselves over and over again, Julie, about decluttering?
Well, she says you're going to ask yourself these two questions over and over and over again. She said the book gets repetitious, but she did that on purpose because by the end, you're going to know it by heart. You're going to know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
The first question is, you've got this item that you've stumbled on in your house.
Mm-hmm.
You pick it up and you say, if I needed this, where would I look for it first?
Okay.
She goes, there's no angst, no emotion. You just, where would I look for it? And then you go put it there right then. If you don't have an answer for it, you ask the second question. if I needed this item, would it even ever occur to me that I already had one? And if the answer is no, then you get rid of it. And so that's pretty easy. Okay. And she said, before you get started, she said, I want you to understand that there's 3 layers to a clean house. And this kind of was helpful to me because she said, like, a lot of people tell me, oh, your house is always so clean. I don't clean my house very often at all. But I will deal with the number one part of the number one layer of a clean house is called the daily stuff. And that's like washing your dirty dishes, emptying the trash, picking up clothes off the floor, towels off the bathroom floor. That's really not part of decluttering. You just got to do that. And if all that's still not done, you got to do that first. Then comes the clutter. And that's what this book is focusing on, just the clutter. And then the third layer would be the actual cleaning, like mopping, wiping things down, vacuuming, dusting. So those are 3 aspects to having a clean house. But this is just focusing on the clutter. And I know sometimes, I think we talked about this before, like before you want to declutter, you want to clean. Well, that's natural because sometimes you just got to get rid of that stuff before you can even deal with your clutter. So do you find like one of these areas to be harder than the others for you to keep up with?
I definitely need my daily stuff to be done. I just find it hard with so many people. Like if it was just me and maybe my husband and 1 kid or something, I feel like it'd be a lot easier. But like I have given up on like picking up clothes off the floor on any of my kids' bedrooms. Okay, whatever your bedroom looks like, fine, because it just gets to be too hard. I mostly just focus on the areas that I'm in and that I see, because that is what will make my blood pressure rise. If you have a messy room, I can shut the door. So I guess I do that. The actual cleaning, I don't really have a problem keeping up with that if I've been able to keep up with the daily stuff, because cleaning really doesn't take that long. You can easily clean your bathroom if everything's already off the counter and there's towels are off the floor. Like it's a matter of like the daily stuff, I think, slows you down because you can't even get to the cleaning.
Yeah. And, back to what you said, she does say you should start with what she calls the visibility rule. Start in the area that guest would see. So you're not going to be starting in your teenage daughter's bedroom,
Right.
No way to
You'll
get more
give up before you
discouraged.
ever get started.
Yeah. So like you said, when you see stuff going out and that room looking more open and bigger and freer, that's just going to encourage you to do more, When you have a room you can walk by and go, that looks so inviting, then you're going to be inspired to keep going. So what about you, Mindy?
I had a routine for the daily cleaning things. And so those are consistently getting done. The wiping down, that's part of my routine. Though it seems that sometimes like papers or, there's still things that start to accumulate that the boys will bring in. Or sometimes things that I'm like, oh, I might need this, this piece of paper, or I might need to keep a copy of this from them if I need to give it to someone. But I don't know. My bathroom, though, just full disclosure, I keep this. I keep my stuff, like I put away my makeup every day. Like after I put my makeup on, I put away my toothbrush and my toothpaste after I brush my teeth. But for some reason, I can't really seem to wipe down my sink very often. Like the Clorox wet wipes are right there, but they're like the kitchen counter, I'm cleaning like 3 times a day. But why? And I'm cleaning the half bath because the boys are in there. Maybe I just don't perceive myself as being dirty enough that I need to constantly actually deep clean my bathroom. But I don't actually, maybe my threshold is higher in there for like dust or, my hairspray or, powder from my makeup. And I'm just like, fine. Like if it's just me, I'm clean,
Right.
Maybe that's what's in my head.
I think my threshold is higher for messes that I make because I know that I will clean them up or could clean them up. Other people, I feel like they may not get around to cleaning their mess, so my threshold is lower.
No tolerance for that, that's for sure. I go in my boys' bathrooms like, what is this mess? You guys need to get in here and just clean it up. And I need to
smell the bleach,
Right.
Let's just take an example of what this might look like as you're starting, say, in a room. It could be your family room, which I did my family room and dining room first. And then I moved into the kitchen. And she said the kitchen has some kind of unique properties that make it a little different. But like she said, step one, you start with the trash, which is the easiest of the easy stuff. This is literally broken stuff, brochures, newspapers, actual trash that missed the trash can. The
True.
banana peel, and she's
Mhm.
so funny because she would say, yes, sometimes I have that in my living room,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the easiest of the easiest. And then there's the easy stuff, like things that really have a home, but it's just not there. And it doesn't require any questioning, like, do I need to get rid of this? This is like your folded laundry that's sitting on the couch. Like,
Mm-hmm.
of course you're keeping it. It's just not where it needs to go yet. Clean dishes in the dishwasher. Yes, you're keeping those. You just got to get them in their place.
Mhm.
And then there's she calls it the duh clutter. And this is like when you look at it and you go, why do I have this?
Mm.
And for me, that was this week, it was my panini maker. I was like, why do I have this? Who says I need to have grill marks on the top and the bottom of my sandwich? I just don't get that. I've never used it. I mean, we used it when we bought it, a
Mm-hmm.
couple of times, but it's really big. It's heavy. It's one of those things I have to move every time I get my crock pot out, which is something I use a lot, the crock pot.
Mm-hmm.
But the panini maker was like a barrier to getting it out. And then that skillet with the nonstick surface flaking off, like, why do I still have that? So that was the duh clutter.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're left with all the stuff that you need to ask those two questions about,
Mm-hmm.
which was, if I needed this, where would I look for it? And if I needed this, would it ever even occur to me that I already had one? And if not, you just get rid of it. So then the last step, and you may not even have to do this one, is like make it fit. So if you're going to keep something, you've gotten rid of all the stuff that doesn't belong. Well, you still might be left with a little bit of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, this is where you apply the container concept. Like, okay, I had probably 15 or more glass vases. Not nice, pretty ones that I
Sure.
bought, but like the things that
Flowers come
grocery
in.
store flowers came in or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or even glass jars that I was saving
Sure.
from spaghetti sauce, like that I thought I was going to store leftovers in instead of plastic one day. And,
Something to aspire to.
yeah.
Nice.
So I thought, if I won't have any regret because I'm always buying spaghetti sauce. If I need a jar, more's coming in. So I just applied that container concept and I thought, okay, I have to get rid. I kept maybe 4 little vases.
Mhm.
All the rest went to Goodwill. And all the glass jars went because I thought, more are coming in. So,
Mhm. And I've
I'm
never
okay
even
with that.
used the one that I set aside.
Right. I never even used one. So, and she said, it helps to kind of pull like things together because then it's helped me to see, wow, I have a lot of vases. And they were kind of scattered throughout the kitchen, so I put them all together and I thought, way too many.
Mhm.
And then you just purge down to the limits of the container. So that's what I did. And
Mhm.
4 huge tubs left the house this week and I don't miss it.
That's awesome. I would love that feeling of dropping off 4 huge tubs.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that it's helpful to ask those questions. A lot of times we don't know why we have something. It was given to us. We
Mhm.
inherited it, like we talked about in our heirloom thing, but it's not sentimental. It's something that someone said, oh, everybody must have one of these, but actually you don't need to have one.
Like
yeah.
the panini maker.
Yes. I'm thinking of my Instant Pot. The only thing I use my Instant Pot for that I genuinely would miss is hard-boiled eggs. But I could probably just get a tiny one. Like I had bought the gigantic one for our whole family.
Mm.
And I have to move it, Julie, to get to things behind it that I actually do use.
Yeah. And that gets annoying.
I know. I remember one decluttering of my linen closet and like the bedding closet. And it was blankets and quilts and sheet sets. And my kids had gone through, through the years, it's like you have the baby bed, the toddler bed, the twin size bed, then the queen size bed, and so I had all these twin size sheets, I remember, and we had just finally gotten each kid like a queen size bed, like their adult bed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up with like 2 huge boxes of bedding that I had to finally go through. And y'all, I still kept the pillowcase from when I was a child that has a rainbow on it that just makes me happy when I see it. Okay, I'm like, I'm not getting rid of my rainbow pillowcase. I remember it from when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to get rid of like Spider-Man, Barbie, and
Yeah.
like the cars and Batman, and we had all these fun character things, and yes, they invoked really happy memories and good times, but they did not need to continue to take up space in my linen closet. So I did
No.
find, we had to really do a major purge of the linen closet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the linen closet's kind of where things go to die. Like, I only use the things in the front, and then I have to make myself go through the things in the back. Yeah.
It grows quickly, too. It multiplies.
Yeah, because you really only need like one extra set of sheets for a particular bed. And then I think, oh, but what if all the family's here and I need all these blankets? If people are on the floor. Well, nobody's ever on the floor. Like,
yeah.
I think of like, something's going to happen. My house is going to be full. I'm going to have beds that I have to make all over the house. And, every square inch, people are going to be sleeping. I don't know why I think this. I'm like, oh, I could use that.
Yeah. Or
I have a whole closet full of sleeping bags.
Oh.
And I thought, why? Nobody sleeps in those. Nobody sleeps on the floor, like you said.
Yeah.
We have guest rooms galore. And they're like, rated for minus 20 degrees. Well, who's going to want to sleep in that?
When the apocalypse happens, Julie.
Yeah. Or I'm thinking about like all the products in the bathroom that are stored at the back of my bathroom closet. And one in particular is like the aloe that I save for sunburns. People only get a sunburn when you're on vacation, and you never remember to bring the aloe anyways. So you buy another huge bottle of aloe, and it turns a funny color over the years.
Oh, yeah. It gets sticky.
Yes. And so just this week we were on spring break, and my girls, they got burned. And Steve's like, oh, why don't we stop and maybe get some aloe? I'm like, no aloe. They'll survive a night, and I cannot buy another bottle of wasted aloe in my lifetime. I can't.
I was thinking about all the toothbrushes that you come home with when you go to the dentist.
Oh, right.
And most of my family has electric toothbrushes now, so we just buy the different heads to replace.
Okay.
And so what I end up doing is I have 2 guest bathrooms. I have like a basket in each one that has like extra things, for guests if they need it. And so I keep adding to the toothbrush pile in the guest bathroom, like just in case somebody comes and needs to brush their teeth.
You have like 25 toothbrushes.
Please brush your teeth when you're at my house. Obviously, dental care is very important.
Right.
She talked about even you could apply this to your fridge. And Marie, like even your bathroom stuff, like say you had something expired in your fridge. I do this all the time. Or the pantry. And you go and you pick it up and you think, I really don't want to eat that. It's expired. And you pass over it for something not expired. But where do you put that expired thing? I usually stick it back in the fridge.
Right.
Because it's too painful to throw it away, or it goes into the pantry. And she said, if you're not going to eat it that day, it's only going to be older the next time. And she said,
true.
Either you make yourself eat it that day or you throw it away.
Yeah.
And she said,
so logical.
Or like people will say, oh, today's not a good day to be sick. I'm not going to eat that. Like when would it be a good day to have food poisoning? So, and she said, I'm not trying to tell you it's wrong to eat outdated food. Like I'm not going to solve that problem for you. But if you're not going to eat it, throw it away.
Yeah, she's
or like donate food. She said, don't hold on to food that your family's not going to eat. Like maybe it was a gift, or you bought it for a recipe that didn't turn out, or it was on sale, so you bought 4 and nobody's ever going to eat 4 of whatever,
Right.
Because I have a lot of guilt over food in the pantry.
Yeah,
And I've
I
never
just-
thought about donating it.
Literally, I
Yeah.
had like several things just flash through my mind that are in my pantry right now that I thought, oh, we might want to try that. Well, no, every time I have an opportunity to cook, I'm like, oh, I don't want to try that. It may not turn out.
Yeah.
Well, the one question that she gets asked probably more than any other is how to deal with paper clutter. And she said she hated to even write a chapter on this, but she did. And Maria, I thought about you because she said one solution was to eliminate the procrastination stations. And that's like the dropping point for the mail on your island or whatever. She said some people think it's cool to let their little kids get the mail because it's such a good task. She goes, I never did let them do that because they didn't know what to throw away. You know, like some of it doesn't even need to come in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you pare it down and then you have a container for it. And I thought about your drawer, Marie, because now I have the drawer.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all that paper goes. And then once that drawer gets full or it's bill time, you know, then you go through it and you deal with it. I don't know. I feel like the three of us together could have written this book, but it would have taken all three of us. Because we've all used, you know, we've all used parts of some of the principles, but she's just got them all in one place.
Right. I really do practice that with the mail. Like when someone else gets the mail, they bring in the flyers. I'm like, the flyers should have already gone in the garbage can in the garage.
Yes. Even the magazines.
Yes. Like we don't
like
need to even. Yeah, like the free ones. Like we
Stores,
don't even need to don't even put that on the counter. Just keep that
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
And she said too, I thought this was interesting. Like if you have other paper, like maybe in a drawer or somewhere else that's just kind of daunting, it's overwhelming. She said, you know, we all realize that there's a lot of important things are paper. But don't look at a stack of paper and think because it's paper, it's all important. Like if it's overwhelming, just at least look at it. Say, I'm just going to look at this. I'm not going to necessarily make decisions. I'm going to look at it. And it kind of helps to realize, no, some of this stuff is trash. I can get rid of it. And she said, sometimes I'll just go through that and then leave it there. And then each time you deal with it, it gets less overwhelming, less daunting, more manageable.
Do you
I thought
know
that was good advice.
what paper I struggle with? It is very guilt producing. Are coupons.
Oh.
I have a lot of trouble throwing coupons away when I just think, oh, like we might go there or and then when I go to the store and I realize I had left the coupon at home on the counter and I'm like, this is so guilt producing. Is a 50-cent coupon is ruining my life. It's taking up the counter space and I forget to take it to the store and it's just mocking me from the counter.
Yes.
So it's really
I know.
hard.
I've gotten to that point where I just throw the coupons away. Like Kroger, based on what you buy, will send you packets of coupons. And they are useful if I ever remembered them when I'm there, but I don't.
Right.
So now I don't even open the envelope and inspire the guilt. I just throw them right in the trash. I even was saving them for like my son and then he could take them to Kroger, but they would come over and I'd forget to give them to him. So then it's on my counter even longer. It's like, no, now it just goes straight in the garbage. And I already know myself. I'm never going to have a coupon on me when I'm supposed to have the coupon.
Right. Not a paper one. The only coupons I tend to use are on my Target Circle app on my phone. That and it's just when I'm standing in line, I'm like, oh, do I have that? Or I'll scan things throughout the store, especially if I'm going to buy like shoes or a sweater, you know, or a bigger item, sheets or whatever. And that's the only kind of coupons I can seem to remember to use is it's just all in that one place. But paper coupons, oh my gosh.
I'll just say this at the end because this is something you might have missed in her 2 rules. I think it's the first rule. She said, you know, you pick this thing up and you say, if I were looking for it, where's the first place I would go to look? And then she says, go and put it there. Well, she means literally right then, go put it there. And she said, you know, you'll be very tired. You may go up your stairs 10 times. But she said, if you make piles, then you're just delaying dealing with it. And she said, your goal is to make less of a mess, not more. And I thought this is really true. I tend to want to pull everything out of the closet and it creates a huge pile in my den. And she goes, what if the doorbell rings? What if you have to go to the doctor or your kid needs you or it's dinner time? Then you're really left with a bigger mess than you started with. And that's never the goal. So I liked that. I didn't apply that totally. Like she said, obviously, if you see, okay, there are 100 hair bands here in this room, you're going to wait and collect them all and take them. But as she said, you can do that, but really don't. It's not ideal to make piles because you're going to make a big mess and then you're going to get discouraged by that. So she said a lot of times this decluttering isn't dramatic. It's kind of slow, but it always works because you're getting rid of stuff. And I liked that. She said, and don't even do a keep box. Like you've heard, like the throwaway, the donate, and the keep. The keep needs to be in its spot right then because all you're doing is like putting off a final decision about that stuff.
Right. Right.
Decisions are the hard part.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard of the decluttering where like you have to throw away a garbage bag worth of junk a day?
I have heard of that, but I don't know. It's like, well, once you've decluttered enough, that might be too much.
Well, I mean, until you get to that point. But I feel like that's kind of what she's saying. Like, just get rid of it. Whatever you have to do, get rid of it. Don't say you're going to keep it. Don't say you're going to think about it later. Don't just move it. Move it out. Move it out. Move it out.
Yep.
And maybe enlist a friend. Maybe you have a friend who is less attached to stuff, and they can encourage you to move it on out the door, It's always easier to declutter someone else's stuff than your own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's not special at all. Just get rid of that.
The duck clutter is very obvious. You want to say, why do you have this?
I know.
But you can't say that always.
No, for sure. Well, Julie, I'm excited to get started on decluttering, not cluttering, on decluttering. I actually went ahead and borrowed this book from the library, and I am going to use it because every year in spring, I get excited about cleaning. Like, I want fresh, I want clean. Mindy, we all want like those cleared surfaces, and this book can help us achieve that.
Yeah, and it really is a fun book, even if you never did a thing. Like, it's just fun because you identify with her thinking, and she gives everything a funny name, and so
yes,
like she would be such a fun friend to have. Like just hearing her personality, like that sounds like I would totally love to read that.
Yeah,
right. Now, one thing, listeners, that I would just love to hear from you guys this week is if you have ever had any decluttering regrets. I think those are kind of fun stories.
Yeah.
So find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast or email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com and share with us maybe a funny story about something you did get rid of, but it might have been like Julie's spring form pan and it all worked out in the end.
Actually, this made me remember when we had our fourth child at the hospital, and my husband had bought a tungsten metal ring because my dad was telling him how cool they were. It was like $9.99 on eBay or something like that. Well, it had come in the mail just before we were going to have Nathaniel. And so I was like, oh, I'll give it to him at the hospital, So I did, and Bryce tried it on and put his wedding ring in the box. And so when we came home from the hospital, I didn't know he had put his real wedding ring in the box. And he said he liked the tungsten metal ring, like to wear it at different times so it wouldn't get messed up. So I got home and in an effort to clean out the hospital bags, I was like, oh, he didn't need that. And I threw it away. Well, it took, after a fourth kid, after any baby, you're just in like fog world. And so it probably took a month, and he was like, oh, hey, so I can't find my wedding ring anywhere. I'd really like to put that back on again. He said, I was only checking this one out. It did, like, we're looking everywhere. And finally, I'm like, oh my gosh, I threw it away like a month ago.
Oh no, Mindy.
It literally was, I think it was like our 23rd anniversary. He was, we joked, he was married to my father for quite a while. And I think like our 23rd anniversary or 24th, we went and bought him a new wedding ring together so that he and I could be married again. So it's a funny story now, but man, I felt sick about it.
As I say, that's the best or the worst
Oh,
regret story. I'm not
man.
sure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, his wedding ring is in some landfill out there.
Oh, well, listeners, hopefully Mindy's story makes you feel better about any decluttering regrets you have.
Don't declutter right after a baby. I'll say like
No.
start getting sleep again first,
Right.
and then maybe think about that.
You need to be sane.
Yes.
You need to be in your right mind.
Oh, all right, you guys. So let's move into I'm a fan. Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
All right. I'm a fan of another recipe, you guys.
You are cooking up a storm, Julie.
I
It's
am
because you
cooking
can
up a
now
storm.
find all your kitchen gadgets.
That's right. All right. This is an oatmeal bake, and I think it's been trending on social media. But I just tried it. I actually had all the ingredients on hand. So as I'm watching the video on Instagram, I start making it.
Oh.
You take 2 bananas. Well, you spray about an 8x8 Pyrex dish.
Okay.
And then you just take 2 bananas and you smash them in the bottom with a fork.
Mhm.
Smash them up really well.
Okay.
And then you add about a cup of dry oats and then some milk. And it didn't even give measurements.
Oh.
So just enough milk, like probably more than you think because the oats are going to absorb the milk.
Mhm.
And then you just top that with fruit of any kind. They even use frozen fruit, like a bag of mixed berries. I use blueberries, raspberries, strawberries.
Mm.
And you could add nuts.
Mhm.
You could add peanut butter or yogurt for protein. And you just bake it at 350 for 25 minutes. And then you serve it warm with maple syrup.
Oh,
And
my goodness. This sounds really good.
It was amazing. And I'm getting ready to make it again. So it lasted, well, it only lasted 2 days because David discovered it and
Well,
and had it for breakfast. But I even made it the night before. When I was watching it, I thought it was an overnight recipe, and it wasn't. So I just baked. I went ahead and baked it that night, and then we just heated it up for breakfast. But I probably could have left it uncooked that night and then baked it the next morning.
Delicious.
But yeah, I think I'm going to make a 9x13 next time. I mean, y'all, it is so easy, and the bananas are really good in the bottom, and they heat up really well, reheat well. So
Wow.
yeah, super
I'm excited
easy
to
and
try
a
this.
good brebreakfast.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds delicious.
It's really
Oh my
good.
goodness.
Yeah.
I'm thinking forget the fruit and put some chocolate chips in there.
I thought you were going to say top it with whipped cream.
You could.
Or vanilla ice cream.
There's all kinds of toppings I think you can add to that.
It probably could be a dessert if you put ice cream on it.
Yeah. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of a cute little thing that I found that we'll call it fast fashion for your shelves at home
Okay.
because it's not something I will keep forever,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a fun little craft to do in the Target Bullseye Dollar section, right there as you walk in.
Sure.
I happened upon these cute little pastel buckets that have everything that you need to grow one of 3 things. They had sunflowers or daisies or lavender. And it was $3 per bucket. So I went ahead and bought one of each because I was having 2 sweet 8th grade girls over to the house and I wanted a little activity for us.
Oh, nice.
And so it was the cutest little thing. So it has like the dirt like already in it. It has the seeds and the bucket is super cute. Like the buckets are like light pink, light green, and yellow. And so my sunflowers, I planted them maybe a week and a half ago, and they have already sprouted.
Oh,
And
wow.
it has brought me so much joy for $3. And so Abby came home this past weekend and we went and bought some other buckets. They still had them
Oh, cute.
in that little dollar section. So they're just adorable. So like if you want to grow some, it's just a little craft project. If it doesn't work out, it was only $3.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
always a
sounds
fun section at Target. I always have to
Yes.
stop and look at that.
It's just the cutest little bucket. And so anyways, it was a fun little craft.
Oh, that sounds cute. Yeah. I definitely think that seeing anything grow and sprout in spring brings us joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm a fan this week of something from Thrive Cosmetics. And I know that we've been fans of other things in the past. Like, Mindy, I was a fan of their hack, but then you ordered their real Thrive Cosmetics mascara, and I did end up ordering the real one, and I do think it's better than the hack. So we like their mascara. And then, Mindy, you had also recommended the Buildable Blur BB cream, which I have in my hand based on your recommendation, and that is good. And it has SPF, which that's always good. But then I don't know if we've ever talked about the Thrive Cosmetics, their Infinity Waterproof Eyeliner. Have we talked about that? Has anyone recommended that?
No, we haven't, because
No.
I have wanted to try and I haven't bought that yet.
Okay.
So please tell me.
I like
I
it.
use almost exclusively their makeup now, but I haven't tried that.
Okay, I
Me
do
too.
like it. A lot of eyeliners make the corners of my eyes water, so I really don't wear it that often, but this honestly has not made my eyes water. And I like that it has this like spongy thing on the end that you can use to kind of smooth it, so it's not just a stark line across your eyelid. And then it has a built-in sharpener, which I hate trying to find my sharpener and then the peelings are coming off. You know, it's a soft eyeliner, but you do still need to sharpen it. So I really have liked this. I would recommend it to anyone. And I ended up getting all three things, the BB cream, the mascara, and the eyeliner. And it was like buy three things, get like $20 off. I don't know. It was a really good deal. So always check their website because they do have good pricing, especially if you're buying more than one item.
Yeah, I love their stuff.
Ew, I'm glad to know about that, Marie. That's great.
Yeah.
And that sponge, that smudgy with the eyeliner is so good for aging eyes, because as our eyes get a little extra skin, little wrinkles, it really helps that it's
Okay.
What are you talking about, Mindy?
smudging, like maybe just smudge it into all the different areas of the eyelid that are now there.
Right.
No crisp line anymore, huh?
No. We're going for subtle here.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, definitely recommend the Thrive Cosmetics. All right, you guys and listeners, get out there, declutter, and we want to hear about it. Share with us on social media. Julie and Mindy, it was great talking with you this week.
Yeah, this was fun.
Oh, you too. So fun.
All right, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.